the 1980s. We usually remember it as the golden era of blockbusters, the decade of The Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark. But behind that neon glow lies a graveyard of cinematic disasters that Hollywood spent decades trying to bury. I'm not just talking about bad movies. I'm talking about films that were so offensive to the senses that audiences literally started throwing garbage at the screen. We're looking at the train wrecks that bankrupted legendary studios, destroyed the careers of A-list stars, and forced directors to publicly admit they had created the worst films on Earth. Imagine a sci-fi disco musical so confusing that the premiere audience hurled vinyl records like frisbees at the screen. Or a $40 million war epic funded by a cult that vanished from the face of the earth because everyone involved was too embarrassed to own it. Today, we're counting down the top 10 most hated movies of the 1980s. We're going to look at the massive egos, the staggering budgets, and the legendary failures that changed Hollywood forever. Grab your popcorn and maybe a helmet, because it's about to get ugly. Heaven's Gate, 1980, The Studio Killer. Starting us off is the movie that effectively ended an era. Michael Cimino had just won 5 Oscars for The Deer Hunter, so the studio gave him a blank check for his western, Heaven's Gate. Cimino's obsession with perfection was legendary. He demanded 50 takes for a single scene. The budget exploded to $44 million, but when it finally hit theaters, it was an unqualified disaster. It didn't just flop, it bankrupted United Artists and ended the period where directors had total control in Hollywood. Think about that. One man's ego literally deleted a legendary studio from the map. Is any vision really worth $40 million and 1,000 lost jobs? Inchon, 1981, the cult-funded disaster. Next is Inchon, a $46 million war epic funded by the Unification Church. It had everything, a legendary director, Laurence Olivier as the lead, and a massive budget. But between natural disasters on set and the US military pulling support, the film became a legendary bomb. It swept the Razzies, lost a fortune, and has never been released on home video in the US to this day. It's basically the ghost of Hollywood, a movie so embarrassing that even the people who own it want to pretend it never happened. Have you ever seen a movie so bad it was officially excommunicated? The Apple, 1980, the disco riot. What happens when an Israeli filmmaker who doesn't understand disco or sci-fi tries to make a sci-fi disco musical? You get The Apple. Critics called it the most mortifying feature ever watched. At the Montreal World Film Festival, the audience hated it so much they started throwing the movie's own soundtrack records at the screen. Honestly, I'd pay to see a movie premiere turn into a frisbee fight with vinyl records. It's bad, sure, but you've got to admit, that takes a special kind of talent to induce a riot. Howard the Duck, 1986, the Lucasfilm folly. Produced by George Lucas himself, Howard the Duck should have been a hit. Instead, it became a nightmare of awkward duck suits and creepy sex jokes that left audiences feeling deeply uncomfortable. It won 4 Razzies and holds the title of the lowest-rated Lucasfilm production on Rotten Tomatoes. It's the ultimate proof that even the creator of Star Wars can lose his mind sometimes. Seriously, who looked at that duck suit and said, "Yeah, this is gonna be a blockbuster"? Ishtar, 1987, the Desert Money Pit. Ishtar is the definition of a production gone wrong. What was supposed to be a $25 million comedy ballooned to $55 million after a nightmare shoot in the Morocco desert. It made just $14 million back. Time magazine didn't just call it a bad movie, they listed it as one of the 100 worst ideas of the 20th century. It's a masterclass in how to set $50 million on fire in the middle of a desert. The real comedy wasn't in the script, it was in the budget meetings. Mac and Me, 1988, the 90-minute commercial. 6 years after E.T.'s, we got Mac and Me. But this wasn't a movie. It was a feature-length commercial for McDonald's and Coca-Cola. The filmmakers actually had a profit-sharing deal with McDonald's. Critics called it the most egregious example of product placement in history. And, honestly, the alien was just plain terrifying. If you ever felt like a movie was trying to sell you something, this one is basically screaming, "Buy a Big Mac" every 5 minutes. It's less of a film and more of a corporate fever dream.
Once upon
Leonard Part 6, 1987, The Star's Own Enemy. You know a movie is bad when the star tells people not to see it. Before Leonard Part 6 even hit theaters, Bill Cosby went on TV and disowned it. It was a spy parody that wasn't funny, and it won 3 Razzies. Cosby actually became the first person to show up in person to accept his Worst Picture trophy. When the main actor tells you to stay home, you should probably listen. It begs the question, how bad does a movie have to be for the lead actor to start an anti-marketing campaign? The Garbage Pail Kids movie, 1987, pure repulsion. Based on the gross-out trading cards, this movie was marketed to kids but featured characters biting toes and threatening people with switchblades. The costumes were so disturbing that parents launched nationwide protests. It holds a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes and is still one of the lowest-rated films on Metacritic. It's essentially nightmare fuel disguised as a family movie. I genuinely want to know what the producers were drinking when they thought kids would find these puppets cute. Mommie Dearest, 1981, The High Camp Catastrophe. Faye Dunaway's performance as Joan Crawford was so over the top that it swept the Golden Raspberry Awards. It won Worst Picture of the Decade. While it was hated by critics, it eventually found a second life as a cult classic, with audiences attending midnight screenings just to mock the legendary dialogue. "No wire hangers!" It's the line that launched 1,000 memes before memes even existed. Is it a tragedy, or is it the greatest unintentional comedy ever filmed? Turkish Star Wars, 1982, the ultimate ripoff. Finally, we have The Man Who Saves the World, better known as Turkish Star Wars. The director didn't bother with copyright. He just stole footage from Star Wars and music from Indiana Jones. It's a nonsensical Frankenstein's monster of a film that is so staggeringly bad, it's become a legendary piece of trash cinema. It's the cinematic equivalent of a guy selling Rolex watches out of a trench coat. It's so brazenly illegal and poorly made that you almost have to respect the hustle. So, what did we learn from the 80s? Mostly that no amount of money, ego, or stolen footage can save a truly terrible idea. These films are monuments to Hollywood, at its most ambitious and its most delusional. But tell me, did we miss any? Is there a movie from the 80s that you hate even more than Howard the Duck? Or maybe you're one of the few people who actually loves Ishtar. Drop a comment below and let's get the debate started. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll be back next week to dig up more of cinema's most fascinating failures. See you then.
Here's something